It's Jenna from Stahls, and welcome to my very first live with you guys from home. And I'm really excited to finally be joining you guys. And today we have a really fun project that is going to start out with heat transfer vinyl, and you can utilize this at home if you're bored and just looking for something to do, or if you have some kids at home that like to craft and have projects to do, then this is a really great project that you can utilize for this. So feel free to comment in at any time. This segment will be going live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday moving forward. So I see some of you guys joining in. I appreciate you joining me. Feel free to comment in, let me know where you're joining from. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and dive into the project. So this project is all about coloring with fabric markers and utilizing heat transfer vinyl as that template. So we did create a static video that you'll see come up on YouTube that's showing you how to use fashion film electric for this particular project. And it's really easy to do. And what I did was cut it all out on the Cricut Explore Air 2, which a lot of our CAD-CUT heat transfer vinyl is very compatible with. So fashion film electric, if you're familiar with some of our basic fashion film type of heat transfers, then those are the ones that are that we have a lot of colors in, and these have a lot of those metallic finishes for that mirror-like high shine type of finish. All right, so you can see the purple in there. It looks a little glossy. That's where the heat transfer vinyl is. And then all we did was take fabric markers and colored each of those in. All right, so depending on how much time you want to spend weeding, that's how intricate you'll want your design to be. So basically all I did was took a letter and combined contour to really open that up. And then I just took a pattern and punched it through there so that we could create a really unique pattern. All right, so that's one I did, and I just used CADWorks Live to do that. It was really simple, just all of their templates and clip art that they have in there, and then I just imported a free pattern that I found on Google. And then this was a monogram frame, so this one turned out really cool. I like the vibrancy of the fashion film electric here. We used the green color for this one, and well, the way the light hits it, it shines gold at times, so this one turned out really cool. But for today's project, we're actually going to be using Flock instead of fashion film electric. And the reason I did that is because while I was testing these out to do the video with fashion film, I found that it's really easy to color outside of the lines. And if you're using a darker heat transfer vinyl, it's less likely that that marker ink will actually show up on that heat transfer vinyl. And the Flock has a little bit of dimension. So for those of you familiar with Flock, you know it has that suede-like fuzzy finish and feel. And whenever you're coloring that in, it's nice to have kind of like a stopping point. Also, Flock kind of reminds me of those velvet coloring books that used to be really popular for kids. They may still be now, but I'm not sure. But it reminded me of that, so I figured it would be a great project for moms at home with kids that need to have some sort of project for them to do. And it also teaches them a little bit about how heat transfer vinyl works and how easy it is to either use an iron or a heat press. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see how I actually created the artwork for the one that we did today. So I have Cricut Explore Air already brought up here from Cricut Design Space because I already sent my design to cut. As you know, Cricut can be a little slower from your standard vinyl cutter. So if you're familiar with working with Graphtec or Roland, you know that those motors run a lot faster because they're on a servo motor. The Cricut actually works with a stepper motor, so that's actually running at a slower pace to cut out those designs. So whenever we are working with this, I went ahead and just cut everything out before the live. So we'll actually be weeding this so you can see how it weeds and how much detail you can actually get with it. But this was the artwork that I created for today's project. So this was all done in CADWorks Live. For those of you that aren't familiar with CADWorks, it is a free online artwork program. And it's a really good starting point for those of you that aren't always making artwork or just need a good starting point if you're not at the advanced level of maybe Adobe Illustrator or Corel Draw. And it's free. All you have to do is go online, create an email and password, and then you have access to this. So Stahls offers this to all their customers, so take advantage of it. It's a really good starting point to learn how to create fun projects and things like that. Now, Cricut does have a design space. However, that's not where I learned, and because I didn't want to learn their design space and the intricacy of that, I just stuck with CADWorks Live because it's really easy for me to output from this platform and take it right into Cricut. So a few things about this, I actually imported this rainbow. I found it as a free SVG file on Google Images. So I just imported that. The text that I used here was actually a font that I imported. So CADWorks does offer a lot of different fonts for you to be able to utilize. However, there is an option to import your own designs and upload those. So anytime you want to use your own font, all you have to do is select or find a font that is TTF. All right, so that's a true type font, and that is what is compatible with CADWorks. So whenever you're considering the font type that you want to import, make sure it's always TTF. OTF does not work. All right, and it does take zip files as well. So if there's different styles of one font, you can import the zip file as well. Just make sure that whenever you do that, it's not an OTF zip, it is a TTF. All right, so I imported my own font, which is what I used for this, and I just used a open type of font. So I'm trying to find that here to give you the, okay, so here's what I did actually. I used Throw My Hands Up in the Air. All right, so that's a font that I actually got for free from dafont.com. And I created a combined contour to be able to get that open cavity so that there were areas to be able to color. Hi, Sherry, thanks for joining. All right, so anytime you're considering your artwork for this type of project, again, you wanna make sure there are a lot of open cavities in that design, so there is a lot of area for you to color or your kid to color or anything like that. All right, you also wanna be sure the fabric type that you're getting as well. I've used 100% cotton for all of these because I know heat transfer vinyl works well with 100% cotton, and I know my fabric markers are going to adhere to the cotton as well. I don't have a ton of experience on fabric markers. I just found these at the local Walmart in their craft section and picked those up just for the sake of the project and being able to test it with our heat transfer vinyl. All right, so okay, back to CADWorks, making sure that your fonts are open so that they can be colored in. All right, so, and again, same thing with the clip art or any type of artwork that you're utilizing for this type of project. At this point, to get my design from CADWorks to Cricut, all I do is go to File and select Export. And when I select Export, I want to make sure that I am exporting as a PNG, okay? So when I export as a PNG, what that's doing is removing, excuse me, any background that's in that design so that it's an easier import into Cricut. All right, so I'm just gonna run through this so you know exactly how this was done. Again, taking artwork from CADWorks and putting it into Cricut Design Space. All right, so I'm just exporting that and it's dropped down here. And now I'm just gonna bring up Cricut. All right, so gonna finish this out so we can go back to square one. All right, so once I'm in Cricut and I'm in my design space, all I have to do, hi Carolyn, thanks for commenting in. I appreciate you guys joining me. We have some decent numbers this morning. All right, if you guys have any questions throughout the broadcast, I can actually see those comments coming in, so feel free to comment throughout. All right. Mike asked, would you have to use a PNG to export to GraphTech as well? So Mike, actually, no. CADWorks does have a middleman program. It's called VectorCut, right? So it's a free download once you're in CADWorks Live, and it downloads to your computer. So it will read CADWorks and send it directly to your GraphTech. Right, so you don't actually have to do any exporting because it will take those exact artwork designs and translate that to VectorCut and send it right to your GraphTech. However, VectorCut doesn't offer that feature. That's why we have to export our designs in that platform and bring them into Cricut. All right, so once you're in Cricut Designer, you'll go to Upload and just go to Upload Image. I already have this imported. That's why it's showing down here is my recently uploaded images. All right, but all you would have to do is go to Upload Image, select Browse, and then bring that in. All right, once you bring that in, it's going to show you exactly that PNG file that you dropped in. All right, you have the ability to select 3 different types for it to actually import. So Carolyn, I actually exported this as a PNG. All right, so once this is in here, it gives you 3 types of different ways to actually take this design and put it into Cricut Design Space so that it reads as a cut line as opposed to a PNG. Now, this is a really simple design, so I can go with simple just so that I can get a basic cut line. However, if I was going to be doing any print and cut options that you can do with Cricut, then I can go to moderately complex if I'm getting some more detail in my design and I need it to read color. And then I can go to complex so that it picks up a lot of intricacy in designs and a lot of color. All right, so that's what all these 3 different options mean. I have a simple design and I'm just looking to do cut only, no print and cut. So I'm just going to select simple and hit continue, and then it's going to go and create those cut lines for me. So everything in here in black is showing me my cut line. All right. So if I'm happy with this, which I am, and this is what is so easy about importing a PNG. If I were to have imported this as a JPEG, I would have had to go throughout this and click all the solid color out of each cavity. All right, so that's the difference of importing a JPEG and a PNG. A PNG pretty much comes in and gives you just the basic design. If you import as a JPEG, that's just more like work you have to do for just a cut file. All right, so background's already removed for me. I'm gonna hit continue. It's going to ask me if I wanna save as print then cut or if I wanna save as just a cut image. Again, no print and cut here. We're just cutting out of Flock II, CAD-CUT heat transfer vinyl. So I'm going to select save as cut image and hit save. And now that's going to be in my uploaded. So I'll just select what I want and hit insert images. And it's going to take that design and import it right into Cricut Design Space. All right, so it does import it as the size of the PNG that you exported. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's why this file is so large. So I can just drop this down to about 8 inches. We're actually going to be printing on a kid's cotton t-shirt. So I don't need anything too large there. Now, since my design is already created, that's all I have to do within this part of Cricut Design Space. All right, so as long as I'm happy with this, I can see that it's ready to cut. All I have to do is hit make it, and then it's going to take that design and show it to me how it's going to look on the cutting mat. And I have the cutting mat right here. All right, so this is the cutting mat that I use to drop the flock on here. All right, so, and it has a sticky carrier, which is nice because it keeps the material in place. And you really want to be able to use a cutting mat like this if you're working with large sheets of heat transfer vinyl because the pinch rollers of the Cricut are set to a specific width. That's one reason. And a second reason is these cutters don't have fans. So if you're familiar with Graphtec and Roland and the fan that they have in them to keep the heat transfer vinyl suction down so that it's a flat, smooth surface as that blade is running across, this is going to will basically replace that for these type of cutters. All right, so this is keeping it nice and flat so the heat transfer vinyl has a smooth surface for that blade to run across it without it puckering or causing any cut lines that aren't a clear cut and can cause an issue while weeding. All right, so it's going to show me exactly where it's on that cutting mat here, so I know I have enough width of heat transfer vinyl on that cutting mat. So it gives me my dimensions and it shows me exactly where it's going to cut that. Now, of course, because we're working with heat transfer vinyl, we want to make sure we're mirroring that design, right? And then we are going to hit continue. And then it's going to ask me a series of questions. First one being, which material am I set at? If I am on the custom setting on my Cricut, then it's going to ask me what type of heat transfer vinyl or materials that I'm actually cutting. However, the Cricut does have a few options on it. All right, so moving my chair out of the way here. The Cricut has a little dial that reads anywhere from paper to iron-on to bonded fabric and poster board, depending on what type of material. You can automatically set the dial to those. So for Cricut, what I did was set it to iron-on and just set my design to cut. All right, so that was a really quick and easy step for me. I didn't have to do any type of like manual setting, but if you did want to do a custom setting, you have the ability to set that material here. Now, anytime I change this dial, it's going to change here on the screen for me, okay? So because I set it to iron-on plus, it's going to alert me to make sure that I did mirror my design, which we already did, so we don't have to worry about that. And then it's going to make sure I have the right tools in. So I have the fine point blade in clamp B, that's ready to go. And then all I have to do at this point is load in my material and hit the go button on the cutter, and then it's going to cut everything out for me. All right, and as I mentioned earlier, I already did those steps with my Flock heat transfer vinyl, and now we can weed away this excess material and move on to the heat application. All right, and I'm just trimming away any excess material. If there was enough material here for me to be able to load this back onto my cutting mat and load that onto the Cricut, I would be able to do that as well. So keep in mind, keep your scraps because they can come in handy if you're ever doing another project. All right, so I'm going to tilt this down so that you guys can see exactly what I'm weeding here. All right, and I'm just starting up at that corner and pulling away the excess material. All right, and Flock is a really thick material because it has that dimension. All right, and it does have a slightly tacky carrier. So if anything happens to lift up a little bit, you can just push it back down. That's what just happened with that E there. All right, and it's happening a little bit as I move along. I will say this is my second or third time actually cutting Flock heat transfer vinyl on the Cricut. So I did have to kind of research different best practices of what people were doing with their Flock to be able to get it cut accurately. So anytime you're working with a new material, just be aware of the trial and error. Especially if it's something that you're not used to cutting on or a cutter that you're not used to working with. So usually if I'm working with one of the other cutters that we have in the studios at Stahls TV. I just utilize those, and they're really easy to work with. But this one was a little bit of trial and error for me. All right, now I'm just continuing to weed out the rest of these cavities. All right, I see some of you guys commenting in. Hi, Donnie, thanks for joining. Probably could have actually cut with a little bit more pressure so that I wasn't having so much issue around the cut lines. All right, Sherry says, so true. I always keep scraps. Yes, I actually had, since I'm working from home, I had to kind of redo how I have like the den area of my house set up. And there is a whole section of just trial and error heat transfer vinyl scraps just laying in like one corner of the den here. It's pretty funny. Test cuts are your friend. I agree, Rosemary. And I did do a lot of testing with this, but for whatever reason, when I cut this time, it's having a little bit more trouble around those cut lines. Of course, because I'm live. That's how it works sometimes. We'll get through this though. All right. I'm going to continue just weeding away the excess material. And if this continues to be as painful as it is, we're just going to heat apply it with some leftover heat transfer vinyl there. All right, so for those of you that are working with the Cricut, I'd love to know some of the projects that you guys have done or would love to see done, because as I mentioned earlier, this broadcast will be happening every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we'll be continuing to do projects on the Cricut with different heat transfer vinyl types. So just keep that in mind. Any projects that you guys would like to see done, what type of heat transfer vinyl you guys would like to see done on the Cricut, or any of those people that are watching that have the Cricut, feel free to comment in as well and let me know what projects you guys have been doing from home since quarantine. All right, we are almost there. We just have to get the cloud done. It looks as though I'm having cutting issues on the one side of the flock as opposed to the other. So I'm wondering if that was a pressure issue from the cutting mat or something like that, because it's just the one side that's experiencing a ton of issue here. Everything else pretty much came out. All right, so you guys get the concept here. We cut out the flock, weeded away the excess material. And again, if you guys are going to utilize this project, just make sure there are a lot of open cavities in the design. All right, so hi, Harry. Hi, Donnie, Carol. Thank you guys for joining. All right, so I already have my craft press turned on here. All right, I'm gonna rotate this so that you guys can get a better view of that. And this is just a 9x12 craft press. So if you guys are working from home and considering what equipment that it's really easy to just be able to set up with, this 9x12 craft press, because of the small footprint, really easy to just put in a small space that you have available at home. Same thing with the Cricut. That's why I decided to bring these two pieces home, because they were so easy to just travel from the office to here with, and just have a sturdy stand to be able to put these on. All right, and I am working with a raglan polka dot t-shirt. All right, this was sourced from ARB Blanks, okay? And this is something that you can just order real quick and have it shipped in. I really like the styles that they have, because they have ruffle sleeves and a lot of different patterns to be able to choose from. But the goal here is, if you are going to do this project, is to make sure that you do have a nice white canvas. That's why we use those tote bags that I showed earlier. And thank you guys. Yeah, I can make it full screen. My bad. All right, full screen. Here we go. All right, so again, yeah, just making sure you're using a nice white canvas so that you guys have the ability to take the color of the fabric markers and fill that in very easily. All right, so just laying this nice and flat on the platen. All right, so again, this is a 9x12 platen, so it does do any of those standard designs. But if you ever get into some larger designs, you can just hit it twice, no biggie. All right, so I'm just preheating. Again, same concept of heat printing any type of transfer, making sure that it is preheated to release any moisture or wrinkles, so that you get the best application of your heat transfer vinyl. All right, so I'm just gonna place this on there, and Flock applies at 320 degrees for 18 to 20 seconds. So that will go ahead and count down for me. I already have that programmed into the press. It is a medium pressure, all right, and I'm just getting a feel from that with this clam style of heat press. It does have a pressure adjustment here so that I can gauge what my pressure is at. All right, it went ahead and count down those 18 seconds for me. And this is a cold peel. All right, so Flock 2, anytime you're working with that, it is a cool peel. So make sure you're just laying that on a flat surface to release any of the hotness in it from the heat press. So I remove it immediately from that platen to make sure that we are getting it away from that heat, just for a faster cool down. All right, Sherry says, I use the Cricut Explorer 2 for my business to do t-shirts and also adhesive vinyl cuts. So she has a ton of projects. Yeah, send them my way. Let me know what projects I should be doing here. All right. All right. All right, so we can go ahead and remove this, and I'm going to tilt this down so you can see this being removed. All right, so we can just throw this away. And now the project is complete with even some of the excess material that I didn't get to remove from that carrier. Again, that was a cut line issue. Flock 2 is actually a really easy product to work with, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I think this was a pressure issue with the cutter, something with the cutting mat or something like that. All right, so at this point, all they have to do is take their fabric markers and color those in however they want. And this actually colors very easily in comparison to the tote bags that I was showing you guys earlier. And again, these fabric markers that I picked up were just from Walmart. So if you guys have to stop in and pick up groceries, these are a very easy pickup. And they actually show very vibrantly as well. So you can see that again from the test bags that I created. Again, this was with Fashion Film Electric. This one with Fashion Film Electric as well. So they do show up very vibrantly. I will say though, it is a lot easier coloring it in with Flock 2 because it does have that dimension to it. So if these happen to bleed, at least it will bleed into that flock. And use a dark color because whenever you're working with heat transfer vinyl that is a lighter color and this marker happens to trace over top of it or bleed a little bit, it does actually dye that heat transfer vinyl. So Again, trial and error. That's what I've been doing for the past few days, is trying to get different projects to work well in a different scenario. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining me on my very first live. And I appreciate everybody commenting in and letting me know that they were joining me. I'll see you again next Wednesday, or this Wednesday. Sorry.